So, Liverpool have won 1-0 in their first game of their USA pre-season tour. They've beaten Real Betis 1-0. Dominic Szoboszlai sliding it across the keeper there in the first half with a lovely little through ball from Mo Salah as the assist. All in all, really, really good match. I mean, it was interesting seeing how it started out in the sense of Slot, unlike Klopp has in previous years. He started a really good team, but then he maintained that squad into the second half, which was quite interesting, to be honest, because that's not something that we're used to seeing. We're used to seeing this big whole blob of rotation of all the players coming out, and we did see more of that later on in the game, but it was nice to see like an actual, not full strength squad, because obviously the players aren't there at the moment. You like see your Van Dijks, your Trents, they're not physically there in that squad, because obviously they're taking extended breaks from national leave. But it was quite interesting to see a squad of 45, or for the first 45, and then no real changes other than, of course, the injury to Curtis Jones, which we'll touch more on a little bit later. So if we do just go through that starting 11 that began the game, we obviously did have Kelleher in goal, always solid. Would love to see Liverpool actually keep hold of him this season. I know there's been rumours of him moving away, wanting to have a number one position at a club somewhere. I think we can all agree that he is good enough to play in the starting 11 in the Premier League, but fingers crossed he doesn't go anywhere yet. But yeah, solid old performance from the boy. And then in at left back, we have Tsimikas, who again, it's nice to see actually getting some minutes. Obviously last season you had the likes of Gomez filling in there. Obviously he's second fiddle to Robertson anyway in that left back role. But it was good to see him sort of bomb forward a bit more, be a little bit more marauding in this system that Slot was playing. Because I know although we did sort of line up in a 4-3-3, it did switch and you did have those two midfields in the double pivot there, with Szoboszlai coming into that sort of central attacking midfield position. Which is good because that's his natural position, right? That's where you want to see players play. You want to see them in their natural positions. But then that centre-half pairing obviously had Kwanzaa in there, who again looked solid as anything. And then Sepp van den Berg, who actually impressed me, to be honest. Obviously, I haven't seen much of him recently, with him being out on loan at the likes of Mainz. But he didn't look too bad, to be honest. Again, he's one that has openly come out and said that he doesn't want to be at Liverpool anymore. He wants to move on, sign somewhere else. So, in that case, a couple of good performances under his belt. It's not a bad thing for the old transfer, is it? If you're going to sell him. So, happy days there, really. And then, of course, we had Conor Bradley filling in at that right-back slot. Again, saw him start there, filling in when Trent obviously got injured last season. And then, obviously, Trent took his place back later on. Bradley sort of began to move a little bit more forward at that stage. But, again, very, very solid option. We know how good Bradley is and hopefully how good he will become in that back line. So then, of course, we did have that double pivot in the midfield there, which did sort of become Endo and Jones initially. Now, as we mentioned, obviously, Jones did go off injured, which is a bit of a shame because genuinely Jones looked very, very good in that position. I remember he sort of came out and said, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, that double pivot position suits his style of play more so than anything under Klopp, which I don't think it was necessarily a little bit of a bashing of his time under Klopp, but obviously we all know how difficult it was for Jones to actually hold down a position and sort of make it his own as such. So maybe this sort of provides a little bit more opportunity to do that, right? And again, Endo next to him, obviously not quite as good at doing both sides of it, if you know what I mean, but you need a solid defensive mindset in there. And I know that there's a lot of chat around there that Endo probably isn't good enough, to be honest, at like starting in like Champions League and things like that. And maybe he isn't. I think there is still a position there to get filled with a void. Like there is a genuine sort of want for a player of that ilk to be signed. But again, we obviously haven't got a full squad there at the minute. And with this Curtis Jones injury, despite that being very disappointing going into the start of the season, it did open up a little bit of room for the youthful 16-year-old Trey Anoy to come in. So obviously the introduction of Trey Anoy wasn't exactly what was expected, but when he did come on, he did look absolutely class, right? Like he held a very big sort of influence in that goal that we did score, played quite an incisive pass forward. And again, just the fluidity of his movement back and forth sort of in that pivot role was good, it was solid, it was again obviously not quite to the same levels yet because again he's only, I think he is actually 17. I know he said he was 16, I'm fairly sure he is 17 now, but there's elements of like a Kobbie Mainoo-esque sort of vision in how he plays, which again is obviously lovely to see. He wasn't the only person that in my opinion impressed in that position though, and sort of moving slightly forward to the second half. We saw the introduction of one of my favourites, Mr. Stefan Bajcetic. Now, again, obviously not as flashy, not as influential in terms of helping to create a goal in that regard, but his passing and just his general ball control, he's such a solid player. Again, won a lot of duels from what I recall in that second half there, where Betis was sort of starting to get forward a little bit more. And genuinely, I really think the boy's class. I know I put in one of the other videos that I want him to start and be one of the number sixes if we play this double pivot, which is looking more and more likely that we will. I would love to see him get more minutes, and I think he genuinely can develop and evolve into a pretty crucial player for Liverpool in the coming season. And in terms of sort of the attacking sort of almost quartet that we had on offer there, of course, as I mentioned, Szoboszlai, who bagged his goal, did sit way more centrally than what we're used to seeing him in the likes of a Klopp system, where he normally played sort of an 8, sort of on the sort of left-hand side of that midfield, on the right-hand side of the midfield, Now he was purely sort of him in the centre there, being able to sort of dictate and create play. You also saw the likes of Elliott and Carvalho, who were meant to be sort of on the wings. Elliott obviously did sort of come in a little bit more. Again, we know how much on this channel that we love Elliott. He is sort of the 12th man in this Liverpool squad for me, and it's always nice to see him getting opportunities. Fingers crossed he will get more coming up in this season. I mean, Klopp said it was one of his biggest regrets, didn't he, that he didn't play enough of Elliott, so I would like to think that he would, hopefully looking forward, get a little bit more. And Carvalho was an interesting one. Again, obviously Liverpool haven't got the likes of a Diaz or a Núñez privy to them at the minute. I think Jota has just recently joined, but there isn't a lot on that left wing there at this moment in time. So it does open up an opportunity for Carvalho, who again might not necessarily be at the club come the start of the season, but again, with this different system, I would like to see him get an opportunity because there is a talented player in there. It didn't, again, under Klopp, didn't really feel like he had a lot of, I don't know if freedom's the right word, but he wasn't utilised in his best position. He was just sort of thrown in, like, oh, go create something. And of course, there was elements where he did do that. I remember he scored a 98th minute winner against Newcastle when he was playing. So there's clearly a player in there. And then, of course, the man who actually started centre forward for us, Mr. Mohamed Salah, grabbing a nice little assist, good little bit of movement there with Szoboszlai for the goal. We know how classy he is, right? I know there's lots of rumours of Liverpool trying to eye up a replacement for him, and that will have to come in due time, but we still know how good he is at this stage in his career, right? It doesn't really make a difference. So as that second half did go on, we did obviously see a little bit more movement on the bench. Of course, all the players that went did virtually get a run out. You obviously had the likes of Ben Doe, Cade Gordon, as we mentioned earlier, Basetic all coming in. Nat Phillips was given an opportunity as well. It was good. Even the likes of Kumas, who obviously scored in the FA Cup last season. All the youthful talent that Liverpool have got, the ones that are potentially going to be looking to go out on loan or fight for a place maybe in these cup competitions, all got their relevant opportunities. Again, nothing in terms of end product, because realistically it was just a 1-0 game, right? But it's good to see that there is opportunities given there for the likes of these players to shine. And you'd like to think that would hopefully continue throughout the season, especially under a new system with Slot, which they've obviously started to demonstrate a little bit in this match. All in all, though, I thought it was a genuinely positive performance. Again, obviously it's pre-season, right? I know this is technically sort of the first competitive pre-season, but it's good to see a little bit of what Liverpool are going to potentially look to offer this season. Again, the actual change of system, it's not only refreshing to see as a viewer. Obviously, we love Jurgen Klopp's 4-3-3, all of this heavy metal football, and it's fantastic, and it's obviously worked absolute wonders. But it is quite refreshing to see a little bit of a difference, a little bit more of a possession-based Liverpool side. I know that they obviously held a lot of possession when they were sort of under Klopp, with the way that he played, but it seemed not to the levels of what we saw yesterday, to be perfectly honest with you. I guess technically today, judging by the time. I don't know, I slept pretty late on it. But yeah, the next match in this tournament, I believe, is Arsenal. I think that's on Thursday night. So again, it'll be interesting to see sort of how they're looking. Obviously, they've made actual signings. Liverpool are yet to make any yet. So maybe we'll see the likes of a Calafiori get a run out, or some sort of form of that. Again, I think it'll be very similar, of just the massive rotations of squads. And realistically, when you look at the squads, Liverpool probably are a little bit behind Arsenal now, not just in sort of the league finish that we had, but just generally speaking, the squad there. It'll definitely be an even game, you'd like to think. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see sort of how they do actually perform and get on, whether we can continue a little bit of form coming into the season. But let me know what you guys think. Did you guys watch the game? Were you happy with the performance? If you were, let me know all down in the comments below. Are you sort of thrilled going into the season? I'm quietly optimistic, I'll put it that way. I think a lot of people will sleep on Slot, genuinely, and I think he will potentially actually get quite a good performance out of the squad he's got. I do just wish that he could bring in a little bit of his own talent and his own, the own sort of players that he would want to implement his system a little bit better. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below. Thanks ever so much for watching, and if you are enjoying these videos and you do want to know about things Liverpool related, give us a sub. Thank you guys.